In this daily drop, I'm going to give you some initial thoughts that I have on this new product category called spatial computing, which of course is the hot topic now with the release of the Apple Vision Pro. So let's go. All right, everybody, brand new week here at the C47 in the barn, a brand new episode of the Daily Drop. And this is going to be a talking head with some thoughts about the release of the Apple Vision Pro, but this idea of spatial computing as a whole. And I've been using computers since I was a very little kid. Most people who are a generation before me have been using them since they were born. And they are just omnipresent. And of course, they're right here all of the time now because of these things. And that's only getting worse. And now we have the Apple Vision Pro. Now, to me, from the videos that I've been watching, and I've watched quite a few, and I think probably the two most interesting ones to me were MKBHD's, because it's really from a techie's viewpoint, and then Casey Neistat's, because even though he is a tech type of person, he's looking at it in terms of an experience and what the future of computing is, I think, in a slightly different way. But neither of them are really touching upon content creation for the platform. I think it's a little weird that the iPhone 15 Pro, when you were shooting for the Apple Vision Pro, is at least currently at a very, very low resolution at 30 frames per second. I believe it's at 1080, which doesn't make sense to me based on the resolution and the experience that you're going to have in the Vision Pro. But I'm digressing. What is interesting to me is you take a look at Meta's products, and I have never been drawn to VR, a metaverse, that type of thing. I get it, but it's just not part of something that's on my radar. I like to consume content generally in the form of television and films or movies. And that's really my preference. And then most of the content that I watch on YouTube is really educational in nature. I want to learn something. I'm curious about something. And that's the type of content I seek out. And it's not always in stuff that we do. Video production, filmmaking. It might be in music. It might be in cooking. It might be in travel. So some of it is lifestyle based, but mostly it's about I want to have that experience, or I want to learn how to do something so I can have that experience in the future. So what's interesting to me with spatial computing is that this is in front of our faces all of the time now. The smartphone, the tablet, whatever the devices that you're using. When you're on a laptop computer or desktop computer, when you have a single or multi-monitor setup, you're kind of working. You're doing something. That's, you get distracted, but you're doing stuff. But this experience is largely, you're just in it. And in a very different way, but if you've never experienced this, and if you have kids, you have, then watching a movie and then looking around and seeing people in your family on these. So I'm not drawn to this big headset. And this is a version 1 product from Apple. And historically, with Apple, they spend a long time on R&D and releasing a Gen 1 product, not always first to market. And I would say that almost one for one, it's by the time they get to version 3 of that product category that they're really hitting their stride. And if you have been watching videos about the Vision Pro with the battery that's tethered and the size and weight of, the headset and all of that kind of stuff, there's an enormous amount of technology inside of there. But what's most interesting to me is when it can maybe look a little closer to this than to going skiing with giant goggles on. The idea, and I would recommend watching Casey Neistat's video, the idea of spatial computing going outside of your home office, your work office, your workspace, and it being an extension of what you do, that's where it gets pretty interesting. I'm still not drawn to it, but if I can interact with people and I have access to things, that's interesting. I don't know if I'm going to like it. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to in some respects. I know there's going to be a wow factor. I know there's going to be a lot about that experience for everybody who tries it for the first time. That's going to be a first experience, something that you've never seen before. You know, remember when you were a kid and you went to see a movie and you experienced something in a theater, you saw something, for me, it was Star Wars, that just blew my mind. I just couldn't even imagine the things that had been imagined on that screen. And when you have an experience like that with movies, with cinema, then that is cinema to me. That's what it is. It's not always a wow factor. It may just be an experience that you've never had, a feeling that you may have not experienced that way. It draws you in, and I'm sure there's going to be an aspect to that with spatial computing. I don't know for me if there's an aspect to that for VR, but augmented reality, spatial computing, I already don't like texts and Slack and the feeling that when I get a communication that I have to respond to it instantaneously. I am still pretty old school that I'd much rather get on a phone call or today a Zoom to actually talk to somebody either over the phone or face to face. To me, that is the way it seems like it should be. Now, of course, spatial computing can allow that to be something that's a part of your everyday life and be more immersive. I'm just not looking forward to a world where people are doing this, but it's an inevitability to a degree. There's always a chance that this product category will fail, but Apple is going to go for it, just like they have with every other product category that they have gone into over the last, we'll say 20 years. And they'll do everything that they can do to make that product category succeed. I know they're spending a lot of time and money and effort on AI as well, machine learning and all of that stuff. So I think by the time we get to Gen 3, that's when it's going to become really interesting. I, of course, want to experience the Vision Pro. I want to start to understand spatial computing. But for me, the big interest is on how I create content for that experience for other people, which is kind of interesting as a content creator because I think that's a lot of what we do. Sometimes we want to have the same experience as other people, but for me, the thing that's exciting is the creating of content, the actual making of stuff. That's what gets me going day after day, and that's what I love the most. So we can be content creators. We can also be consumers if we choose. But that's where I'm most interested in spatial computing, augmented reality. And obviously, there are huge, huge possibilities when we talk about this technology when it comes to education and the educational experience that I and other people can give to other people. Does that make sense? I hope so. Hey, those are my initial thoughts. Don't forget to. And I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.